Hello everyone, welcome to SportsVoice for another interesting episode on Ashes Cricket Series 2023. Let's go in detail. England, when played against Australia, the first two matches they have lost, and they came very strongly and had a win against Australia in the third test match. And when we talk about the fourth test match, it's because of rain, unfortunately. They drew the match at Old Trafford. With 2-1 lead for Australia to retain the Ashes series, it's still a big challenge for England to level the series. So let's go in detail to the deep insights of the fifth test match of Ashes series 2023 happened on 27th July at Kennington Oval in London. Let's welcome Mr. Sheshadri Srinivasan, the sports commentator. Hi Srini. Australia won the toss and decided to field first. So let's have a detailed discussion on day one. What happened, Srini?
Hello. Australia made one change in their squad. Todd Murphy came in place of Cam Green. As far as England is concerned, they went with the same team that played at Old Trafford because they played so well there. They were in full control of the match. But for the rain playing the spoiled sport, they would have probably won that match and leveled the series as well. So they retained the team, and then Australia won the toss for the first time in this series and chose to bowl. In fact, Ben Stokes also said that if he had won the toss, he would have chosen to bowl as well. That is how it was. The match started and it was a bit of an overcast condition, very conducive for the pace bowlers. And early in the innings, England struggled a bit at 73 for 3, they were at one time. And then there was a 110-run partnership between Harry Brook and Moeen Ali. That made a huge difference. In fact, Brook was dropped when he was at 5 by the wicketkeeper, and how costly it proved to be remained to be seen at that point in time. And 4 wickets fell subsequently, just for 28 runs. But there was some rearguard action when had Chris Woakes, who scored 36, and Mark Wood, who scored 26 runs as well. The partnership yielded 49 runs, marked the number 49 because that number had a huge impact in the end result of the match. And of course, Duckett scored a good 41, but overall, England were bundled out for 283. And this is despite the fact that as many as 5 catches were dropped by Australia, which is a rarity. David Warner and Usman Khawaja. And David Warner got out at 24, and he was caught brilliantly at the second slip by Jacques Crowley. In fact, Crowley has been doing a wonderful job in the slip cordon, and they has made a big mark on that tall player to stay in that position and take those catches. And the wicket was taken by Chris Woakes.
In the inning 1, England scored 283 runs for 10 wickets in 54.4 overs. On day 1, Australia finished at 61 for 1. What would be on the minds of the English team at the end of the day's play? Do you think they were under pressure? It's interesting what happened on day 2, to whom it belonged to.
Day 2, very soon Marnus Labuschagne, who was struggling a bit at the crease, got out, was brilliantly caught by Joe Root of Mark Wood for 9. And thereafter Stuart Broad had 2 quick wickets, and Khawaja and Travis Head were back to the pavilion. At that point, definitely they were under tremendous pressure. And then Jimmy Anderson, he bowled Mitchell Marsh, which was a very, very big wicket. At that stage, it was 151 for 5 for Australia. And they needed some good runs, and definitely they were in a spot of bother at that moment. Then Steve Smith carried on at one end. He went on to score 71 very valuable runs. When he was at 42, he was a bit lucky. In fact, there was must have been the situation where his heart must have been in his mouth because there is a close call for a run out. And then when the replays were shown again and again, it showed that there is a good throw from George Elam, and Bucky, the wicketkeeper, Johnny Bairstow, had dislodged the bails before the ball was on his hand. That is where the third umpire didn't hesitate to call it as not out. So Steve Smith stayed and then went on to score 71 runs. And he had a good partnership with the captain, Pat Cummins, because before that, 2 wickets had fallen. Carey and Stark had gone out, and 185 for 7 was the score at that point. So the valuable partnership of 50 plus with Pat Cummins became very crucial for England. Pat Cummins scored 36 runs, well-made runs. And thereafter, Todd Murphy scored 3 sixes of Mark Wood in his score of 34 runs. Again, a great contribution at a very crucial time. With all that, Australia managed to score 295 and they were all out. And Chris Woakes bowled exceedingly well, 3 for 61. In fact, he had been in and out of the team because England had a battery of fast bowlers in their resources. And at the end, it was very clear that it was almost even Stevens at the end of day 2 because there was a slender 12 runs lead in favor of Australia. That made the match pretty interesting because, in 2 days, 2 innings getting over and 3 days remaining for a most important test, particularly in point of England, who are planning to, trying their level best to at least level the series if they could not regain the Ashes.
We knew it's a 12-run deficit for England, and what happened on day 3 when England played their second innings, because it looks very interesting. Each innings did not stay for more than a day.
Day 3, England started their second innings. Immediately the deficit of 12 runs was wiped out. They had a very good opening partnership, Jack Crowley and Duckett. They scored 79 runs for the opening stand. In fact, throughout the series, they have been playing very well, giving a good start for the team. And Jack Crowley went on to score 73 of 76 deliveries, a marvelous innings. And Joe Root scored a brilliant 91, missing his possible century. In fact, he was set to score that century, but somehow he missed it out. He was out for 91, and he had a good 110 runs for partnership with Johnny Bairstow, who made 78 runs, and that is a good 5th wicket partnership. Helped a lot for the team. Ben Stokes and Duckett scored 42 runs each, and at one point of time, England were 360 for 5. Looked like they are going to have even a much bigger total, but then the wickets tumbled, and at the end of the day, it was 389 for 9, 377 runs ahead, or 377 runs as a lead, and they would be looking forward to see how many more runs they could add on for the last wicket before Australia come on to chase that target. Most of the day, England dominated in their batting, but in the end, as you saw, the wickets started falling, and Stark took 4 wickets and Murphy took 3 wickets. So this was setting up a very good, tempo for the final test at Oval. Still 2 days remaining, and 377 the lead for England.
Okay, overall lead for England 377 with the last pair in the middle. Do you think is that lead was good enough for England to defend and win this test and level the Ashes series?
Day 4, England started the day at 389 for 9. The 2 overnight batsmen, Stuart Broad and Jimmy Anderson, and it was Anderson's 41st birthday, and obviously, there was a standing ovation in the packed stadium with all of them clapping as both the batters were just coming onto the field. The Australian team made a formation of guard of honor for Stuart Broad, and as Stuart Broad was coming in, he just put his hand over the shoulder of Jimmy Anderson, said, "Come, you also join, because the partnership has been great and recognized by all of them." But Jimmy Anderson was very magnanimous. He felt that guard of honor truly belonged to Stuart Broad on that day, with his great contribution to the English cricket and cricket as a game, and he was retiring, so he allowed him to go forward, and he took one step back, and then later on he joined him, and Stuart Broad walked through that guard of honor, and in fact many of the spectators trying to capture that moment in their handsets, and understandably so. So that is how the day 4 started, and the bowling was in the hand of Mitchell Stark, who was having 5 dot balls, and on the 6th delivery, fantastic event which will be memorable happened. Stuart Broad pulled him over mid-wicket for a 6, and then he went on to the non-strikers end, and the following over, Jimmy Anderson got out, which meant that Stuart Broad had signed up in style in his batting in the Test career, ending it up with a big six. That was something memorable for everybody. And then the stadium was really enjoying the fully packed stadium. In fact, the entire Ashes series, one saw that a lot of people had turned around, a lot of people watching on the television, a lot of people following the cricket. So the Test cricket has gained a lot of excitement, particularly because of this particular Ashes series. And then with 6 runs scored on that day, it was 395 all out. England being all out at 395 meant that England has set a target of 384 runs for Australia with a lot of time remaining. And then the openers, David Warner and Khawaja, played a brilliant innings, and in between the rain factor also came in, and tea was taken early, and at 135 for no loss, the umpires had to call it a day, and 249 runs were required by Australia to win the match on day 5.
With the Australian opening batsman David Warner and Usman Khawaja playing so well, taking 135 for no loss, what happened on the 5th day's play?
Day 5, Australia started their innings at 135 for no loss. Previous day post-tea, there was no match because of the rain. And the partnership ended at 140. In fact, Chris Woakes, got both the wickets of David Warner and Usman Khawaja. And also Mark Wood got rid of Marnus Labuschagne. At that point, Australia were 169 for 3. And later on, Steve Smith and Travis Head had a good partnership of 95 runs for the 4th wicket. But after that, there was not much of batting to come. And Chris Woakes ultimately ended up at 4 for 50 and Moeen Ali 3 for 76. In fact, Ben Stokes preferred to continue the bowling attack at pacer at one side end and spinner Moeen Ali at the other end. Even though Moeen Ali was suffering from a groin injury earlier, but he did a good job, bowled very well, and the ball also was turning a bit for him when it was pitching on the rough, and he bowled extremely well to catch up with 3 for 76 score. And very interesting point here is Stuart Broad took 2 wickets, 2 for 62, and everybody was just thinking when Ben Stokes was continuing with Stuart Broad and not taking the new ball or bringing in Mark Wood, and it was very clear that Ben Stokes was very, very confident of the win. He was very, very confident of the Stuart Broad bowling, and he delivered for his captain. That's what happened, and what a match it has been. At the end of the day, you have to look at how nicely England came back after losing the first 2 test matches, winning the 3rd, and almost in the brink of winning the 4th, and ending up in a draw because of the rain playing the spoil sport. And on the 5th test, showing that aggression, showing that attacking mood, came back strongly, and then with just a 12 runs lead for Australia in the first innings, in the second innings they played so beautifully, set up a good target of 384 and managed to contain the Australian batting and winning the match by 49 runs. That 49 reminds us of something, that is the partnership between Mark Wood and Chris Woakes in the first innings, which gave them the respectable total of 283. With that 49 runs difference, England won the match and levelled the Ashes series.
What an exciting finish for England to square the series 2 matches all. Anyway, the Ashes are retained by Australia, and definitely it will be a most memorable series for them. Srini, can we discuss the key moments in the Ashes series?
73rd Ashes series that has provided a lot of excitement to the cricket fans. The 2 teams played very, very closely contested test matches, and in fact the world test champions Australia won the first 2 test matches at Edgbaston and Lord's, and then England came back very strongly at Headingley, winning that match and narrowing down the lead to 2-1 in this series in favour of Australia. The 4th test match at Old Trafford, in fact, England was in full control. In fact, the way they were playing, they dictated the course of the test match, and they were in a very, very comfortable position to win the test match, but for the rain washout on the final day. And with that, England's hope of trying to regain the Ashes was also wiped out, and Australia retained the Ashes. But then the final test match at Oval was still supposed to be very, very interesting for the reason that England would like to fight back and then try to square the series, and because that is also a great honor. And they are playing against the world test champions. So the fifth test at Oval provided a lot of excitement, and the way in which England played that test match, with the full, commitment and, with that kind of, effort, they made sure that they won the match by 49 runs, and with that they leveled the series as well. One interesting factor for the entire Ashes series has been the baseball approach adopted by the England team. Ben Stokes was very clear. He wanted to be always on the attack, and with the aggressive batting and the bowling also, they tried to go and attack the batters, keeping, close infielders, so many of them. Sometimes we saw 5 slips also in the slip cordon. They didn't mind even if a few runs are, going away, but they wanted to attack the batters. That is how the attacking approach was there right through the series, and Ben Stokes stood by any of the decisions which he took in this regard. In fact, when in the first test, the declaration he did in the first innings, there was a lot of question marks raised. Is it right? Is it not right? But Ben Stokes apparently was very clear that he had taken that calculated risk. That is how the baseball approach has been. So overall, very exciting series it has been. And also we saw that, lots of tall scores were played by the batsmen. 189 was the highest score by Jacques Crowley. And then also we had a good score of 155, attacking score from Ben Stokes and the other century makers, Usman Khawaja. And then you had Mitchell Marsh, Joe Root, Marnus Labuschagne, Steve Smith. All of them played a great innings. And overall in 10 innings, the highest run getter was Usman Khawaja, scoring 496, followed by Jacques Crowley, who scored 480 runs of 9 innings. Mitchell Starc took 23 wickets, and Stuart Broad had taken 22 wickets. And overall, it was a very exciting series. And another important aspect during the series was the 600 wickets landmark by Stuart Broad, who completed with 604 test wickets. And at the end of day 3, he announced his retirement, and that was something which surprised a lot of people, and that is his decision. And also, one important factor we saw in the final test was, on the day 1, Australia had dropped 5 catches. In fact, Harry Brook was dropped when he was 5, and he went on to make 85. Sometimes we say, not sometimes, often we say, catches win matches. Maybe this was one of the key examples in that particular case. But overall, an exciting series has come to an end, and almost everyone enjoyed watching these matches either in the stadium or on the television or whichever manner, and following it in, whichever manner, and then enjoying every bit of it. We are talking about the, the shorter version of the game gaining a lot of importance, but definitely this Ashes series has made sure that Test cricket is staying alive and staying strong.
This is all for this episode. We'll be coming with most interesting topics. Until next time, take care. Bye bye. I'm signing off. Your Swanal.